This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees is called to order with the presence of quorum. The meeting has been duly called. Notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you all for coming out today. We do have public participation on the agenda. However, we have 0 public participants. So we'll just move right along to our competitive academics update.
Successful student outcomes look in many varieties and shapes and forms, and one of those is competing on the academic side of things. We love talking about celebrating athletic achievements and fine arts achievements. One thing our kids do a really good job at is competitive academics. Dr. Walls will provide you a mid-year. We realize the mid-year there's not a lot that has happened at this time, but you'll kind of give us what the landscape looks like for the upcoming spring. Dr. Walls?
President Washman. Oh, I don't think this is, hello? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. President Washman, Dr. Crawford, and board trustees. Happy to see you again. Going to bring you the competitive academic update, and it is, for the most part, just kind of what's going to happen soon. We currently, as you can see the dates, have 3 students in Austin right now. There is Ayan Ansari, we have Jack Bergefeld, and JJ Tully. They're competing today, and we don't have the results yet, but they are down there, and hopefully we have something to report. Coming up, January, February, we have our CTSO district and regional contests. What I have found that we do have one from HOSA that automatically qualifies for state. That's Michaela Bustamante for the nutrition competition. So looking forward to seeing what she does with that. The cross-examination debate meets will be January 25th through February. Most of these are dates coming up. February 24th, we're going to have our UIL middle school academic at the CTC. So I know they've been really working hard. I've attended some of those meetings and just looking forward to seeing what we have. I'm going to give you some more results as we do the update, a little bit as you had all asked. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And then in March, our cross-examination debate statewide. In March, all of our CTSO state contests, like I said, Michaela is going to be on there for the state qualifier. We have the March 23rd UIL for elementary. They're going to be at Legacy this year. And then again, these are more days, so I'm just going to push them through. As you can see, April and May, we're going to be pretty busy with that. I wish I had more to report other than dates, but that's kind of where we're at this time of year. I do have one thing, junior achievement. We had the stock market challenges, the 3rd annual one that we've done. If you've never been to it before, I know that Mr. Jones came this year, and wow. I'm going to send this out to Dr. Crawford, Mr. Jones, and if they want to forward this on to you, to see hundreds of students compete over at TJC and the excitement over like a stock exchange. I mean, they're screaming, the bells are going. It is just really, really cool. And so love to have any of you come out and see that next year. So we had first place this year was Early College High School. And we also had a most, it was just kind of an award that the most energetic award was Tyler High. And then we had 2nd and 3rd place was Legacy. So we did have several people place. And then this year they had multiple districts. So I know that White House came, Chapel Hill, so we had a few more kind of being involved in that. So lots of fun. And like I said, next year would love to have any of y'all come out and see that. And that is the end of the update. Any questions?
The ones that are competing in state Congress right now, what is state Congress? How does that work?
They go through multiple rounds of debate within that. So there's those 3 students. I know that some of them, I was literally texting with them to see, hey, have we got any updates yet? Any updates yet? So within those different rounds, there's depending upon what their main focus is within the debate. So this right now they're observing. So the 3 students that are there, they're observing, and one of them is one of our teachers is actually being part of the judging process. So that was like sent to me about 20 minutes ago. So just trying to get an idea of where they're going to be at.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
ECHS, maybe this is a question for you with some support from Mr. Jones back there, the presenter. Numbers on competitive academics at ECHS, because a bunch of academicians over there, they need to be competing. Any feedback on that as far as recruitment efforts go? I know we have the Junior Achievement Champions, but what are we doing in regard to competing within district play for whenever we need to do these types of things?
I know they're doing the 3A,
Yeah.
so they
okay,
are going to compete.
Okay.
As for exact numbers as of
Yeah.
currently, I'm not 100% sure
Yeah.
because they're assigning them up
Something
and
to keep
things.
an eye on, because this board and I get emails about, oh, we need to start our own soccer team. And we know that 80% of those kiddos that go to Early College High School are zoned to Tyler High, which if we didn't have Early College High School would inflate Tyler High to a 6A. And not one of those students are going to play anything. So that's one of the benefits of Tyler High being a 5A school, is because we've really focused those kiddos to go to Early College High School. It's a very academically rich school. Obviously, it's an A-rated school. Everybody knows you get your associate's degree there. So that's just another thought. We've had these thoughts before come out of here, and a focus needs to be, we need to compete with those academicians that are already college bound and go win the 3A district championship and saturate it with numbers. So something to think about as we move into the new building that I would really like to see done. They don't just get to go over there and go to school and then go home. We need to encourage that, and so that we can bring championships to our district. Other thing, our K-8 program continues to just really excite me and make me proud. That was kind of one of the projects that Mr. Brown worked on early. And I think it's just fun, especially to see the elementary kids go and compete. A lot of competition across the city to bring back that championship. Rice always, seems to be at the top, so they do a good job over there, I believe. So anyways, that's coming up. I'm excited.
Jelaine Lamont, she's the one who really runs that, and she's been really working hard.
good.
This year. So, yeah. All right. Any further questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have our TAPER report, Texas Performance Reporting System, and result-driven accountability for 2022 and 2023.
Dr. Lance Gropel, Deputy Superintendent of Administration, Dr. James Curitan, Director of Assessment and Accountability, are going to present this year's TAPER report. We got an email from TEA back in December, I believe, that said, even though ratings weren't released, thou shalt still follow statute and present the TAPER report. Well, that's when the TAPER report was actually provided to us. It was finally compiled in December, and we had every intention to show y'all. We didn't need any encouragement from an agency telling us what our statutory requirements are, even though ratings have not been released. So this is your annual TAPER report. All the gumbo has been cooked. The things that we gave you over the testing season last year with our, I guess that was Star Renaissance last year.
Correct.
Along with some other academic data, has now been compiled into one report. So Dr. Curitan, Dr. Gropel.
All right, well, good morning, and thank you all for giving us a chance to walk through some of this data. We're going to kind of point out the highlights from the TAPER or the TPRS, and then we'll talk RDA, our results-driven accountability, briefly. So just as a reminder, the TAPER, as it found out recently, is actually the paper version of the TPRS, which is the digital online database that everybody has access to. So
TRIPS.
I don't know why we need two
TERPS.
names, but TERPS, there you go.
Okay.
But basically, it's just a kind of a compilation of all of our data: attendance, STAR, dropout, CCMR. So we could spend all day going through it, but we just picked through some of that data to show you here in terms of what Tyler's doing. So I did want to re-hit the STAR scores again, just to show you last year, despite the new test, which was obviously much more difficult, We held serve for the most part, and where we didn't hold serve, we did better in the majority of our grade levels and contents, but we held serve in a few, and then we had a few dips, obviously, that we're working to move up. Nothing substantial, just to be very clear, but may have seen a dip like in our masters, which is what you see with reading. It was mainly dipping in our masters because of that ECR, that writing prompt. But overall, we held pretty good with the new STAR test. I do want to point out kind of what Dr. Crawford's alluded to many times is that we don't have a district rating. We don't have formal campus ratings at this point. They're not released because of the lawsuit that's got everything tied up in court. Eventually, maybe those will come to light, but at this point, they're not. One thing I do want to point out is that as I go through these next two slides, our ECODIS number, the percent of our students that are economically disadvantaged is almost 76%. And I'm going to show you a lot of state comparison data, and just so you can see where the state is when we talk about this, they're at 62%. So it's a substantially lower economically disadvantaged population that we're getting compared to. So on here, I'm going to show you some 21-22 data. I know it's 22-23 taper, but this lags. So we're really talking about 2 years ago. But I wanted you to see the attendance rate is better than the state. Our chronic absenteeism is lower than the state average. And then I feel like everything below that is what we see pretty consistently every year, that we outpace the state in dropouts in a good way, lower dropout rate. Graduation rates are higher, and the graduation rate is higher even when you look at just our at-risk graduates or our economically disadvantaged students that are graduates. So to me, it's pretty phenomenal to be able to say. The other piece of this that I wanted to spend a few minutes on was just our college career military readiness. You can see where we are compared to the state. And then I just picked some of the criteria, really the main criteria that we receive that college career military readiness credit for. You can see where we outpace the state there, but the big one is at the bottom. Obviously the work of Mr. Brown and Dr. Walls, but getting our IBCs, our industry-based certifications up for all of our graduates. That's huge compared to the state average.
And one thing, even though it's a low number, I mean, the associate's degree, I mean, you're tripling the state.
Correct. Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Dr. Cureton, I know you're going to have time for questions at the end of this, but good pause right here on this slide. This right here was a big trigger for the STAR 2.0.
Right.
Not a tweaking,
Right.
is what the agency would like to go out there and advertise. This was a pretty big shift. This is the data. These are the kiddos.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
And y'all see it's pretty good data on the CCMR side of this that were counted in this year's accountability adjustment. We didn't have any chance and opportunity with these kiddos to do any type of remediation or support.
Yep.
Resource allocation. Even though we were doing a good job, they came back, changed the rules of the game about what CCMR looked like. They were adamant about that. They kept it that way. And if we were to release ratings, that's where you'd see a lot of the dip had occurred.
Right.
Growth was a big deal, but CCMR was one thing that they did not budge on.
Correct.
Even though it looks like we did a fairly good job in competing against the state.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say in all the meetings that we had with the state, with TA, that was the one piece, like they would be a little bit willing to talk about other pieces, but when we talked CCMR, it was just off the table. So, yeah, but we're still outpacing the state, and I think you'll continue to see ours to go up over the next several years.
One other piece of data on here, board, that I don't know how significant it is, but it is one thing to keep in mind, is the graduates enrolled in Texas Institution of Higher Education. For a long time, that data was only state schools. They finally found a way to talk to the Baptist down there in Waco and start counting the Baylor kids and even the Baptist down there in Belton, Mary Hardin Baylor, and even the ones over in Marshall at ETBU. So they actually they're still continuing to count for us. However, we do, and y'all know this because y'all have got friends and family that probably consider going to places like Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. Those are just a few of the, we've got kids in the military academy. So, So, in saying that, those kiddos still do not count for us. I think they're trying to figure out a way to clearinghouse that as well, Dr. Kiernan?
Yeah, that's been another big piece. They were trying to work with, I can't remember the other agency's name, but trying to work with other agencies to pull all that together, and it's been a challenge from what I've gathered.
So even though we're doing better than the state, there are still kids in Tyler and across the state that are falling through the cracks on that we don't get credit for. That we could get credit for, that would make our CCM higher statewide and here. So just a little intricacies within these data points are certainly something that's very interesting to talk about.
Okay, so that should wrap up TPRS, which is just kind of reporting of some of that data. It is different from RDA, which is results-driven accountability. Still reports some of the same data as what we saw with TPRS, but with RDA, we do get assigned performance levels. As you can see on that chart or that diagram in the bottom right, they go from level 0, which is where you want to be, to 4. And so I'm going to show you kind of where we fell out in each of those 3 program areas. So bilingual students or ESL students, special ed, and then our other special populations. So the way I showed this is we've got the 3 program areas, and then you've got the 4 or really 5 performance levels, and where we fall. Overall, for bilingual and our other special pops, we actually saw a decline in the performance levels. That's what you want to see. That's a positive thing. And then for special ed, we didn't see an improvement, but we held serve. So we continue to work on that area.
Before you move on that, talk about those PLs and the ostracized significant disproportionality in year 1. Dr. Davis is back there, our chief of student support that handles a lot of the special ed in 504 back there. That significant disproportionality is dealing with discipline?
I believe that one's discipline as well. Yeah, that's where it's been for a couple of years now.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. If we look at the big picture and what this means, so right now I just want to point out these are all projected in terms of how and what needs to be done based on those scores, so what we actually have to do. So for bilingual, we're actually at the lowest kind of level of intervention, determination level, or we expect to be. For our other special populations, we think we'll be at the needs assistance, and then we may be at the same for our special ed. One thing I'll point out is we received this report back in December, I think it was right before we got on break that Friday, but we actually didn't have what's called the determination levels. That's what I'm showing you here. So we just received those in yesterday. We're working through those and what that means, so we'll be able to say more in the future. But this is where we would have expected everybody to fall out based on what we showed you. And then take any questions if you have them.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
January we'll have, or no, this is January. February we will have middle of year iReady data. Is that correct? Along with M-Class and all the other things that we measure?
That's been ongoing this week and next week.
Okay, so the February regular meeting, which I believe is on the
RLA,
19th.
RLA's going on this week, and we start math iReady assessments next week.
Okay. Something else that kind of influences this, Accountability Roadshow. May want to describe a little bit about that, Dr. Curitan, about what the project we embarked upon the month of December.
Yeah, we obviously, we embrace accountability, and so we went to all 26 campuses, 25 campuses, and essentially presented what we see from their data through the eyes of the state. So where do we think they're going to fall out? What are some opportunities where they can improve this year? And then what were some strengths that they can build on from last year? So we went to every campus, talked to the staff before or after school,
Yep.
and just kind of gave them the big picture and where we want to continue to move forward in 23-24.
Yeah, one thing we did share with our staffs and our faculties were that while Dr. Curitan and myself, Dr. Gropel, Mr. Jones, see these reports, kind of the back end of it, we realize that the complexities of instruction and planning are far more rigorous than us just presenting, saying, hey, this is what you need to do to get better. there were a lot of instances, and I think I've shared this with some of y'all, or most of y'all, or if not all of y'all, to where there were some surprises. Dixie is doing an incredible job in African-American reading. I want to publicly state that. One of the areas that we're really excited about at a campus that hadn't always been doing that for that subpopulation. What are some other surprises that you can think of off the top of your head in regard to that, Dr. Curidan?
Yeah, I would say, so in the Closing the Gaps, when we talk African-American students and the growth and performance, I would say that was an area where, with the way that they redesigned it, it's acknowledging that we're moving up and improving. And so I think that was a positive thing to see. I would say across the board, really, I think it was, in terms of positive surprises, I would say that when we saw the redesign of the system, the accountability system, I was worried about Domain 3 and Closing the Gaps because it just felt excessively complicated, and that it may not recognize us for what we're doing. But I actually think as a whole in Domain 3, so Closing the Gaps, it recognizes what we're doing better than the old system does. It's not just because we would have a higher score there, it's because when you look at what campuses are doing, they are growing and improving. So even if it's a 2-point increase over last year, that's recognized now, rather than just saying, well, it doesn't matter, you missed the 10-year target, too bad. That's no longer the case. Now it's, the gains may not be huge, but are you making improvements? And I would say almost all of our campuses, we saw some good solid gains in Domain 3. So I think that would be the biggest surprise, because I was worried about Domain 3.
Yeah, and the moving the growth goalpost, the goal line, really did impact us.
For sure.
Without getting in too deep of a dive in individual campuses, to whereas we think that if we'd have had all things stay the same from the prior year, we're talking about an A-rated district. No doubt about that. But they did set those targets pretty far out there. We talked about that. We talked about the psychometricians who do it for a living. People design tests for a living. I bet they're really fun to hang out with at holiday parties. That they were really utilized here. Of course, Commissioner Morath has a mind, an incredible mind, and has a vision of where he wants to take the state. And we really did bite off a lot this year. Now, all things are supposed to remain constant for the next 4 years. That's his thing, as he said, he wants to do this every 5 years. And so we'll see if that works out as it combines with, had a new test, we set the floor, and we should see improvements everywhere we're going. So there you go, a little commentary.
Question regarding the lawsuit. Do we know how long it's going to take on this lawsuit determining if they're going to release the data or not?
So last I've seen, I think it's going to go to court in February. So I guess we'll see if that gets resolved at that point, unless there's some other.
Now, February is the court case. I don't know how long that will take.
Right.
Depending upon what happens there, if it winds up in the plaintiff's favor, if I'm saying that right, yeah, the state's the defendant, in the plaintiff's favor, pretty sure that the defendant, the state, will appeal it, and it'll probably go to the Texas Supreme Court. That takes a while to get to. There's an injunction in place right now. In years past, when there's been injunctions, think of the school finance lawsuits that we've had in the past. Those things sometimes take a while to be fleshed out in the court system. I don't believe this year's data will be released before the courts are through with it. Whether it's done by August, which is when they're supposed to release this year's accountability data, I don't know. One of the things we can talk about, one of the pieces of the lawsuit, or the piece of the lawsuit, is that they did not provide the accountability playbook, the manual, until when, Dr. Curidan?
Halloween of 2023.
Yeah.
So 3 months ago, that's what triggered this lawsuit. Have we gotten the manual for this year?
No, and the preliminary manual is supposed to be due January 31st, and we've not seen it at all yet.
So if statute says you're supposed to do it before let's just call it August 1, because no one started school yet, I don't think. At least we haven't in Tyler. No. So, in saying that, they haven't met the same statutory obligation, at least from a novice eye that I'm seeing that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens come this spring. But we're supposed to have it, not August, it's supposed to be,
The manual?
no, I'm talking about
The end.
the scores.
Oh, the scores, we should receive those at the end of May this year.
Yeah, May or June.
Just the star scores.
Yeah.
Yeah. no,
Ratings too, though, right?
Not when we get to school.
But it's supposed to be, unlike this last year, well before school starts. Remember, the ratings were supposed to be released after school started this year, because they took them a while to figure out what everything looked like.
One other question in regards to the lawsuit. How does it affect the districts with this going to court overall? Does it affect anything at all? Other than our rating?
You've
And-
got the initial districts that participated in the lawsuit, then you had, pardon my legalese, but those that joined after the fact. And we were not one of those. And so ratings were not released technically. Now, we have data that we can and project what we think what our ratings could be. So how does it affect district? I think you have two choices to make. Either you just kind of go play school, or you actually go down, continue with what you've been doing and striving that and being aware of where you may have been as far as the ratings and what you're striving to be. And that's what we're doing. So there's no penalties put on the districts for that lawsuit, but it does affect all 1,200 school systems in regard to your public and charter schools and what those ratings being released by the agency look like. No one's had their ratings released. We don't even have them embargoed in some secret vault or anything like that. All we can do is kind of guess what we have. So pretty good idea, but there's nothing that's penalizing districts for participating in the lawsuit.
Any other comments or questions? I will say, just going back to in a 6A district, if we didn't have early college high school, like Dr. Crawford said, we'd have 2 6A high schools. In a 6A district with over 18,000 kids, the graduating class for that year, 1 in every 15 graduated with an associate's degree. That's billboard worthy. That's impressive.
No doubt.
So keep it up.
Yep, and the other half of that's TJC. I mean, we have got a very unique situation here in Tyler, Texas. You can look at the Lone Star system in the Houston area. You can look at the Tarrant County College and the Dallas County College systems. But just think about how many schools they have to serve. It is, we are an extension of them and they are an extension of us. And that is a neat, pretty cool thing that there's just not a whole lot of communities in the state of a district our size to where we have unfettered access to our junior college here in town. And they do such a good job over there. Very, very glad to have them as a partner.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we have, I guess, an opportunity for a public hearing. Any comments or on the TAPER report? Guess not. Okay, we have some action items. Before we go into executive sessions, item A is a TASB update on several local policies. And then we have after that, we'll have just some local policy updates, so.
Yeah, this is the second reading of these policies. You had the policies presented to you at the last board meeting. Per our district standard, even though we don't have to do it this way, we have a first reading and a second reading. That first reading allows the Board of Trustees to be able to look at the changes that have been made. Of course, the legislative session just ended. We've got some adjustments that have been provided through TASB, and then some other things that we needed to clean up as well from a local point of view. Dr. Gropel in his office, Trina, Stuart Pine over there, they are the ones that warehouse our district policy and make those adjustments and then send them on to TASB, and then TASB either sends us a letter or doesn't send us a letter saying they agree, or they just put it in, they said, okay, we'll take it. So I think this last time, Dr. Gropel, we did not receive a letter of concern from the Texas Association of School Boards on some of the adjustments we made.
We have not. They've been very supportive of our local recommendations, the policy put in front of you. So,
Okay.
so welcome change to the support process from TASB.
Okay. Put everything in the blender down there and came out appropriately. So that's a good thing. That's a little bit of an adjustment from what we've seen here in the past.
That is correct.
That's correct. If you got any questions about those policies that you read from the first reading and then read throughout the second reading as well, feel free to contact myself or Dr. Gropel's office and we can discuss. There is one in there that you
yeah.
might want to let the board know about.
We're looking at some local changes to policy EIC. That's a local graduation honors policy. We're just going to look at some refinements that we may want to make additionally. It's in front of you for some of our pre-AP and AP adjustments based off of the legislative session, but we want to make some adjustments moving forward about some of the graduation honors. So we'll bring that to you for a first and second later this semester.
Yeah, specifically on transfers in from private to public.
Correct.
So Dr. Gropel, Mr. Jones, and myself have all gone down this road before as high school principals in the Metroplex and understand that there is sometimes gamesmanship played, and we want to make sure that we're protecting what we have in our public school systems, but still encourage our private school parents and students to consider Tyler ISD. We want to make it too restrictive, but we certainly don't want to make give anyone an advantage to build up their GPA away from Tyler ISD as well. So we'll find a good balance. I believe y'all all got an email back in the summer in regard to that. So we want to make sure that we're approving this today, and then we will have an adjustment for y'all before the grading handbook gets approved, maybe in August. Is that going to have any impact on
Yeah,
this?
we will be making some adjustments to the grading handbook as well that will align with the policy updates. We'll bring the policy updates prior to the adjustments to the grading handbook. That way we know that the policy is supported by you all before making those adjustments to our local administrative
Yeah,
regulations.
that grading handbook can be found online underneath, I think, Parents and Students tab. If you want to take a look at it, we have not brought that here per tradition, but certainly those adjustments get made by the administration. Y'all do y'all stuff through policy. So EIC will impact some of what's in the grading handbook as well. So that'll be brought back to you in a later date.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on item A.
I move we approve item A.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. And then I'll entertain a motion on item B.
I move we approve item B.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you for making sure we keep an eye out on all these policies that come out of TASB. I know sometimes when it goes into the blender, it can get a little fluid, as blenders do, and we like things to be pretty solid around here. So, okay, now we were going into executive session. Do we have any action to follow? Okay, thanks. We will now go into executive session.